Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Preda's fired back at some of the OpTic criticism over the last couple of days after questions have been raised on especially Shotzzy and Dashy's playstyle and exactly how that OpTic SMG lineup is meshing between Predah and Shotzzy. Pred says though, there's no primary SMG player, we do what is required when it is required, but there have still been some serious questions raised as to whether Shotzzy needs to adapt his playstyle if OpTic wants to get to the next level. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Still can't believe this, by the way, here from aBeZy. Just wanted to share it. I know that like the snipers in the respawn modes are kind of cheese, but he gets the 3-piece and then bang, hits the no-scope through the wall to clear out the feeds. Look at this as well, 9,000 subs having as well. He's absolutely killing it lately. What a great player, great content creator. Just absolutely love to see this type of stuff going on. I will say in ranked there are some, well, every day people are talking about the cheaters. That's why I believe Havoc has gone to console, hasn't he? I'm pretty sure there's a few guys like that that are just playing the game on the PS5 or whatever, because there are, what, fewer cheaters, maybe zero cheaters. I don't know. It's an unfortunate reality of the PC landscape, and even Nameless quote tweets this when, you know, Call of Duty tweeted last year, machine learning advancements will help the efficiency of removal of cheaters. But, you know, Nameless is like, yeah, for sure, that ain't happening to me, buddy. And I'll share this clip actually in a second if in Parasite, but apparently he managed to do like a whole day yesterday where he didn't even play any hackers. So maybe Parasite got lucky on that one. And this was the clip here from Parasite where he gets the first kill. He then like world stars this second guy off the top rope here, no scopes the third guy, and then gets a hit marker on the fourth guy. So this was very unfortunate. Like, he no scopes this guy, and then the final guy, like, here we go, yeah, you guess the hit marker. So sad. But here are some Lion Man cards. Here are the champions, the Toronto Ultra. Some of the best cards I think I've ever seen for a championship winning team, because in years past, you'd see FaZe would win the championships, and it would be like aBeZy with a 98, Simp with a 95, Cell with a 99, and then RCs would have like a 78 or something, right? Because there weren't as many kills to go around on the map. Whereas Toronto, and to be fair, this is over the entire stage, of course, not just the major, 15 in 1 in Hardpoint as well is absolutely absurd. I think it's kind of because they got slammed by Boston in that ridiculous 3-0 that happened, and Scrappy said, well, it was online cheese. For some reason, they always beat us online server stuff. And, you know, maybe that's fair enough, given the way they played against the other teams. That was the only hardpoint they lost. Every other hardpoint they won, which is such an absurd record. And also, they didn't lose a search and destroy at the major. So there's that as well. And the only game mode in which they, you know, 7 in 4 isn't struggling, but that's the only game mode that anybody could come close to these guys in. And you can see that in the numbers as well. But, I mean, it's crazy to think that this is probably CleanX's best game for what we've seen so far. I think it suits him really well. The fact that he can also use an MCW at times. CleanX is just on fire at this game right now. Insight is the best he's been since Cold War, maybe better than Cold War Insight. To be fair, Cold War Insight was like a top 5 player since it came into the league, so that might be hard to stop, but, you know, even then, I mean, is he not the best AR in the game, or one of them right now? Definitely up there. It's early days, of course, and, you know, in the same vein to when Hook, if you guys remember the start of Black Ops Cold War and Dallas Empire, Hook had an insane stage 1 until they got to the grand finals and lost to FaZe. It was all online at that time, but, you know, it is what it is, and then Hook didn't really maintain that form going forward. So it's not guarantees that just because you're unreal at stage 1, it's going to be maintains, but, you know, it has a reasonable likelihood of happening. I've got to say Scrappy as well. Like, this guy, I don't even think he gets the credit that he deserves, just because, you know, he likes to talk trash and all these other factors. I think people overlook to some degree just how insanely talented Scrappy is. Like, the fact that he's able to play at the pace that he plays at and still drop these numbers is frankly ridiculous. Like, look at the game modes here. In every single game mode, his kills per 10, his damage per 10 is pretty much top of his category. He's either the very number 1 in this category in his AR role, in hardpoint kills per 10, damage per 10 in hardpoint, and damage per 10 in control. And in the other game modes, he's 97, 93, like one of the absolute top in terms of damage and kills in that role. And he still drops a 1.1. This is one thing to recognize, that these KDs do not represent the number. Like, the number here is not based on the KD, it's based on kills per 10, hill time per 10, damage per 10. Basically an average of some of the best ratings here depending on the role. So the KD is not actually relevant here, but the other stats are relevant, which do reflect KD in some respects as well. But the numbers that you get up here are more of an indication of impact rather than KD. So the fact that he's having 99 impact and his KD is like a 1.2 in an insane pace that he plays at, it's just pretty ridiculous. And Insight is just a perfect complement. And Envoy, okay, he had a bad couple of series at times, but he's been pretty frying as well. And in terms of damage again and impact, he's up there with a 91. So just absurd cards for a championship winning team, and we'll see if they can maintain that going forward. These, though, are OpTic's cards. Very interesting stuff, and we see some discrepancies here more so than elsewhere. Pred, again, has been disgusting. Like, I don't think there's any surprise, really. People that knew Gun, that Pred was going to be great on this OpTic team, and that's been what we have seen so far, especially, I guess, in the control and really across the board. Pred's been very good, but it has been their Search and Destroy that's let them down. Kenny has been very strong in the respawn modes. His Search and Destroy has been pretty woeful, to be fair, so far, and I wouldn't say that's a massive surprise. Kenny's Search and Destroy hasn't been great historically. It wasn't really a strength of the Los Angeles Thieves in the last couple of years, but once they fixed it, they were in a good position, and we know that there's work to do for OpTic in the Search and Destroy modes, and that's why what we're going to discuss here in a second. My kind of opinion is OpTic shouldn't overthink this too much. Their respawn was very solid, 7 in 5 in control, pretty similar to Ultra's 7 in 4, and 14 in 6 in hardpoints is very respectable as well. I'm not expecting Ultra to go 15 in 1 again. Like, I think that was pretty outrageous, and OpTic to go 14 in 6 in the stage in hardpoints, very impressive. It's generally speaking the Search and Destroy that's let them down, and still top 3 is not bad given that kind of Search and Destroy record. And if you look at the numbers, actually, Shotzzy's been pretty damn good in the Search and Destroy. He also plants all the bombs as well. Sure, his respawn, his hardpoints might not have been so good, but the rest of the guys were doing enough to make up for that in some sense. But yeah, the Search and Destroy is where a lot of the focus needs to be. But of course, there's been lots of talk from Aches and Parasite and others over the last couple of days on the relative playstyles of the players. Does Dashy need to change his playstyle? Does Shotzzy need to change his playstyle so they can get back to moments like this again? OpTic, of course, won the championship at Major 1 back in 2022. And to be fair, look at OpTic's lack of victories for the last couple of seasons. It's not super dissimilar to what's happened with FaZe. Sure, FaZe have had so many top 3s. We actually saw the numbers earlier today, right? I briefly shared this for you guys. But just a quick comment on this, I guess, because the Complexity team that went 15 top 3 placings in a row over a year and a bit span, because there were lots of events back then, they won, I want to say, 11 or 12 of those events they placed top 3 at. I think they made something like 13 or 14 grand finals in a row, that team, and they won about 11 or 12 of them. So that's pretty absurd. Simp, aBeZy and Cell are currently on a streak here of 10 top 3 placings in a row. And out of those 10 in the last couple of years, they've won, what, like 1? So, yeah, the conversion rate is obviously not as good. So it's not dissimilar to OpTic in some ways. But OpTic's placings have been more up and down, and FaZe have still made a bag. But they haven't cemented what they'd want to cement in quite the same way. So I'll share another clip here from Parasite where he talks about the fact that compared to other players in Shotzzy's role, the likes of aBeZy, the likes of, let's say, CleanX as well, has he adapted as much as they have? I think this is a worthy debate, because we talk about OpTic more because they're OpTic, right? They're the most fans. We know how it is, and therefore OpTic get brought up on the flank as well, more so than other teams would. And again, the fact of the matter is, these guys, and we are talking about OpTic again, getting top 3, whereas the New York Subliners, the world champions, got slammed out top 12, and apparently that's not really a big deal. I think it possibly will be a big deal if they can't turn it around, but, we're not having big discussions over HyDra and, maybe he's fallen off, or maybe Kismet's fallen off, whatever. Those aren't discussions that are being had, whereas the discussion on Shotzzy seems to be prevalent regardless, even when OpTic actually have a pretty good event and play reasonably well. But maybe there is a conversation to be had. There's certainly more scrutiny over Shotzzy than other players, and, has he adapted his playstyle as much as some of those other guys have? Possibly not. I mean, maybe you just don't see it as much. I think CleanX has definitely adapted, and you do see Shotzzy make very similar mistakes and very similar playstyles than he has done for the last couple of years.
Say it's like an OpTic cheese or like it's a Shotzzy like hater type of thing. We don't talk about this way. We don't talk about this the same way we do with CleanX. Obviously, with aBeZy, people are going to say FaZe bias, but we don't talk about the way that aBeZy plays. We don't talk about the way that CleanX plays. We don't talk about the way even like a player like Kismet plays in the same
I actually love the way CleanX plays
in terms of their search and destroy and like their discipline. Like, yes, obviously, like an entry fragger, if that's what you want to call him, is going to make more mistakes, but like there's no reason why we wouldn't have the same conversation when other players like this struggle. It's literally clear as day that every other player, or like even other players, have made strides in their gameplay to tone down some of the mistakes that they make and the way that their play style can actually end up hurting them. But Shotzzy is not one of them. Shotzzy has not been that player that has adapted. He's been the same type of player for he's been the same type
That's
of player
cap.
for a
That's
long
cap.
time.
That's cap.
How's that cap?
Shotzzy's adapted multiple times. There's times
I'm
where
not-
he's
bro,
running
I don't know if that's cap, Tom.
fucking-
His play style, he's played the same way for a long time.
Nah,
The
bro.
whole
Because we talked about no, Tom,
Shotzzy's
we talked about this in Vanguard, how much he still overchows in so many situations
guys,
where he
I'm
doesn't
not
have to.
disagreeing that there's times where Ant goes a little roll.
I feel like, as only from an observer, I see you being the main sub player. Based off your team performances, do you feel like you and Shotzzy can make adjustments where to both of you and your sub duo can take turns slaying? There's no specific role in our team. It's just whoever's there at that time. Ant likes to make certain plays, so he does those certain plays. It's just all our play styles, and it's just how to adapt. Obviously, when we need a break, we're all going to group up and break the hill together. But once you know what I'm saying? Like, I know what your question is, and it's just play styles. Ant likes playing that way. Ant likes playing for the win. He likes taking routes. He likes getting you spawns. He likes finessing, being annoying. You know what I'm saying? So that's the best way to put it.
So there probably is some merit to this discussion, right? But I don't think that OpTic will feel like they should overthink this situation too much. At the end of the day, their respawn's been very solid. Their search and destroy, generally speaking, has let them down. And Shotzzy, all things considered, has been pretty good in their search and destroy. Planted a lot of bombs, threw a lot of smoke grenades all the way across the map, and, you know, Pred's been probably their best player so far as well. So I think that they just need to knuckle down a little bit. The game has also refreshed massively with all the new changes, the fact that Rio Hardpoint's now in the game. So we'll have to just stay tuned, I think. But I thought Pred's perspective was kind of interesting, right, about the way that they're set up in terms of there isn't really defined roles. I'd be interested to hear what CleanX and Envoy would say to a similar question to that. Do they feel like they play in a different way to each other? Because they certainly do. And Shotzzy and Pred certainly play in a different way. They play to their own personal style and preference. And sure, it is true that, especially in a respawn mode, whoever's there first goes first and executes the maneuver that they need to make. But, you know, I think you see sometimes some severe differences between the way Pred and the way Shotzzy play the game. Doesn't feel like they're always on the same page, whereas maybe CleanX and Envoy or other SMG duos, Simp, aBeZy, of course, go way back, maybe feel like that's the case somewhat more often. So I think it's an interesting question to be had, and players will always phrase things in different ways anyway, depending on how they're feeling on the situation, and often players, they might not want to give too much away in terms of the way they feel behind the scenes as well. Just to close out with, I thought was kind of remarkable, we looked at current streak in terms of top 3 placings. Cellium is currently on a pretty, well, significant 1+0 or 1.0 plus KD struggle. I said that wrong the other day as well. But these are Cellium's last 19 event KDs. So Major 1 2021, 1.20, and these are just the numbers that you expect from Cell every single event that they play. Absurd consistency. There's always going to be talk about his playstyle as well, as there is for FaZe whenever they don't win. But clearly, he's done this for so long now that FaZe are pretty happy with him playing this way, but yet, as we can see, the results over the last 10 tournaments they've played have, well, not been so pretty compared to what they would like to have achieved, but for most teams, making top 3 every event is just remarkably impressive. And maybe it's easier nowadays because you only have to win 2 series to make it, but also you only have to lose 2 series to be up top 12. So I guess it goes both ways. Maybe the competition's higher nowadays, so there's some debate on whether it's easier or harder to maintain a top 3 streak nowadays than it has been previously, but, you know, I think it's a matter for conversation. But very much interested in your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.